Welcome to Life Coaching on the Move. I'm Dawn Fiske, your host of this podcast. Welcome along. If you're new to this podcast, I am so pleased that you found it. Welcome to the group of followers. This is me. I'm a life coach and have been for over 17 years and work with hundreds and hundreds of different clients. I tell stories, I give examples, I make it come alive. I talk about my own experiences and those of clients, make it real. We talk about all sorts of subjects. If you've got subject matters you'd like me to cover, drop me an email. But I encourage you, I support you, I'm right behind you, and I tackle all sorts of issues and topics. I don't edit, I don't script write, I just speak from the heart. Sometimes I'm at home in the office recording, other times I'm out on a dog walk with nature, with my best little mate in the world, because that's where I'm most creative. Today, I'm actually sat watching my son play a school hockey match. I'm supporting him from the sidelines, from the car, because it's cold and wet, and I'm recording at the same time. So it's very, very raw and very me and authentic. Today I'm talking about the subject of making mistakes and why in fact it's a good thing to do and why I would love you to welcome mistakes. It's important that we do, and it's important that we learn loads from those mistakes, and that then changes them from being mistakes to being life lessons or great opportunities for learning. So today's episode is all about have a go, make loads of mistakes and see it as a good thing. Change your mindset about it and see what you can take from it. So I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Drop me an email if you would like other subjects covered. dawn@milestone-coaching.co.uk. In the meantime, let's crack on to this week's episode. Today I'm focusing on achievements and success and having a go and pushing yourself out of your comfort zone and new experiences. But in particular, I'm going to focus not so much on those themselves, but more on what can be a byproduct of that. Because many of you who've worked with me one-to-one through coaching or who's listened to my podcast before will know that I really, really, really believe in you. I genuinely do. I believe in human beings and their abilities and pushing yourself forward and trying it, dipping your toe. I'm passionate about it. And so encourage you, steadfastly support that. And, I'm beating that drum for you to push you forward. The downside and the possible risk to that, if you want to use the word risk, I don't like that word actually, it's a little bit negative in this context, but the byproduct of that is when we do have a go at new things and we dip our toe or we get out of our comfort zone, there is an opportunity, that's the word, where we can perhaps not succeed. I'm trying to avoid the one word that I'm talking about, and that's mistakes. We might make mistakes. Now, many of us are scared of that. Many of us don't want to fail, in quote marks. We're afraid of failure. Lots of clients that I've worked with who've got great goals, great ambitions. They want to leave their job and set up their own business, or they want to write a book, or they want to change role, or they want to all sorts of things, all sorts of goals that they've got. But what has been preventing them in the past and why they've come for coaching is because of a fear of failure. Now, I say when that's the case, not having a go in the first place is definite, guaranteed failure. By not trying in the first place, you've got what you most fear. Because you cannot possibly succeed in a business if you don't set that business up in the first place. You can't possibly succeed in your first ever marathon if you don't run the marathon, don't try it, don't start training, don't sign up for it. Or a performance if you want to do amateur dramatics or get involved with music or a show or anything. You absolutely will fail if you don't try. That's the first thing. Winners cannot, by their very nature, be a winner if they give up, if they're quitters. Quitters can never win. Winners cannot be quitters, or they wouldn't have won by their very nature. So to win, you have to keep going. You have to have a go. You have to stick with it. You have to persist. to ever have a chance of being a winner. And quitters can never win because they've given up. So for you and me and all of the community listening to this, I don't want any of you to be quitters. I want you instead, would 100% encourage you, 110% encourage you to have a go. And I would 110% encourage you to make mistakes. In fact, welcome mistakes, embrace them. Because if you're making mistakes, then it confirms you're having a go. It confirms you're out of your comfort zone. It confirms you're prepared to take a risk. And that increases your chances of success straight away. Just doing it increases your chances. And I'm already impressed but with that, because you're halfway there. Having a go makes you halfway there. So I would really, really, really endorse that. Go for it. Give it a go. What's the worst that can happen? And when clients say to me, yeah, but what if it fails? What if I'm rubbish? What if I'm no good in that role, or don't like that job, or they don't like me, or I'm no good in business and it doesn't, what if it doesn't, succeed or take off? And I turn that around because I can see it from a different angle. I reframe it and change that mindset with, what if it does work? What if your business is a huge success? Or what if you are great in that amateur dramatic role, or a great performer on stage and love it and the stage loves you? Or what if you do go on that date and you get on and you really like each other? Where might you be in a couple of months? You might be in a proper relationship and you've got somebody to put your cold feet on and someone to share things with. What's the worst that can happen? So to turn it around and reframe it. Now, why do we need to welcome mistakes? Well, the one book that I love, if you've never heard of this, then I'm going to talk about it a little bit anyway. But one great read around this is Black Box Thinking. It's a book called Black Box Thinking, where it very much promotes the idea of having a growth mindset. If we've got a growth mindset, we're going to continue to learn, welcome opportunities to learn. We're going to continue to grow. We're going to continue to adapt. But if we have a fixed mindset, that's it. It's finished. We won't pursue something. We won't research it. We won't consider it. We won't have an open mind to it. We've shut the door. We've shut the door before we've even tried to open it. And we will hold ourselves back with a fixed mindset. So very much promote the idea of a growth mindset. And in the book Black Box Thinking, it talks all about. Actually, it starts off by talking about the author's own experience. I won't talk about his own experience because it is quite grabbing. It's definitely worth the read. It hooks you in straight away. But a lot of the content draws on the difference between the aviation field and the airline industry, and their very open-minded approach to mistakes. When something goes wrong in the airline or aviation, it can be catastrophic. So they have to constantly learn from any problems, any issues, any mistakes, whatever you want to call them, because they're often catastrophic. And they cannot risk those being repeated. So they have to learn from anything that happens. So the minute there is a problem in the world of aviation, they look deeply into what caused that problem. Was it human error? Was it human error because certain switches look similar to other switches close to each other, and therefore it increases the chances of human error? And if that's the case, they need to adapt and redesign those switches or move them away from each other, for example. So equipment with the human element, how to make that equipment safer with humans involved. Or if it's a mechanical issue, what can they learn from that mechanical issue and how they can improve upon that and make it as 101% safe compared to what it was, and so on and so on. They really, really look into it. They do not have a culture of blame. if it's been human error, they don't blame people. They re-educate. They will retrain all their pilots so that they're much more aware of this potential of this mistake, for example. So it is not a culture of blame. It's a culture of growth mindset. It's learning from what happened through the black box, adapting it, improving things, increasing safety. That's always their prime concern. As a result now, the safest form of travel is flying, because they have minimized all the possible errors or windows of error. They've improved all of the equipment so that they are as safe as possible and continue to. They're always evolving and always improving. So that has got to be a good thing for each and every one of us that ever uses flight as a means of travel, or our loved ones, for example. However, the other area that the author talks a lot about at the time of writing. Now, I can't remember when he wrote this book. It was a little while ago, and I hope that things have really, really, really improved. But the flip side to that, the more negative, perhaps, if you want to use it, industry example that he draws on is the NHS. There are reasons why he looks at that, and the story that he tells is truly compelling, as I've mentioned. But the NHS, for example, has much more of a blame culture. They will avoid holding their hands up. Or at the time of writing the book, the atmosphere in the NHS was very much don't whistle blow, don't put your hand up and admit fault or liability because of insurance and liability and all of those sorts of things. One consultant who made a mistake wouldn't put their hands up and admit to that mistake, because that then puts their whole reputation into question, perhaps the whole reputation of that department or that hospital, and the etc., etc. So there was, and possibly still is, much more of a culture where you would keep quiet. If the ranks would all close up. The reasons behind something going wrong would be not so open, not so apparent. It wouldn't, the whole environment, the whole culture of the NHS then, this is a couple of years ago at least, was much less open than the aviation industry. Much less more prepared to speak about where a human may have made a mistake and how can everybody learn from that mistake, and maybe they change the labelling, or they change the process, or they change the approach to a certain technique or procedure, so that they could then, going forward, reduce the risk of this ever happening again. That was much less likely to happen in the NHS for all the reasons I've said, because of reputation, because of liability, and so on. And yet there's equally the need for safety in the world of medicine. We need that improvement. We need constant growth mindset. We need constant improvement, so that there's far less amount of millions of pounds spent each year on liability and insurance claims. There's a lot less deaths as a result of mistakes. That's what we need. We need medicine to get better and better and better in terms of outcomes and minimizing human mistakes or the window for mistakes. So in fact, what he's saying in this book is that we need to change that culture, and we need to welcome an open culture of what went wrong. He then moves on to how is this appropriate for each and every one of us in our everyday lives. And there's a whole host of reasons why we should, each and every one of us, irrespective of the field that we're in or the line of work that we do, we should all individually look, well, A, welcome mistakes, and B, learn from them in a good way. So that we can get even better at our skill set, or better as a human being, minimize error, or and the confidence that we lose, and increase our reputation, increase our confidence, increase our skill set, for all those reasons. In fact, I think he even talks about one industry, and I can't remember whether it might have been Lever Brothers, or a manufacturer of vacuum cleaners or something. It was definitely a household name years and years ago when they were developing all their equipment, washing machines and vacuum hoovers and things. They was talking about one company in particular that actually employed engineers and inventors and design team, and specifically encouraged them all as a team to work on prototypes that were wrong prototypes, things that didn't work, didn't have the outcomes. Constantly keep inventing these things. It didn't work, this didn't work, this didn't work, it failed, whatever you want to say. Because then he knew they were getting closer and closer to inventing the right machine, washing machine or vacuum hoover, whatever it was, one that really worked, really properly worked and sort of passed the test of time, because they'd ruled out all the other options of those that didn't work, those that failed, didn't do it quite right, or didn't do it at the right speed or the right efficiency. So actually encourage the mistakes in order to make the real successful one. And that's what we've got to do. So make mistakes. Whether it's in a few relationships, you dip your toe, what's the saying, you've got to kiss a few frogs to find your prince, and those sorts of things. Have a few dates and find out what type of person you don't want, so that you know what type of person you do want. Try different activities in order to find the one activity or your real passion that you do love. It's only by, I've talked a lot about the podcast I listened to called Don't Tell Me the Score. And so many sportsmen and women on there who are famous for a particular sport now, whether it's sailing around the world or hockey or whatever it is, when you listen to them being interviewed about their childhood and how they grew up and how they got to their sport, they have often first tried really hard to be a successful footballer, or tried really hard to be a track sprinter or something, and then they found that they were really good at hurdles, or they were really good at something else. It's only by trying a few things that we can then find our real passion in terms of our hobbies. Often I work with clients and I say to them, where's the fun in your life? Where's your downtime? And they'll say, well, someone will say, I don't really have any. I don't have any hobbies. I don't know what I like doing. I don't know how I like chilling out, because they don't. They genuinely just work, travel, eat, sleep, repeat, quite literally. And they have no downtime, apart from meeting the odd friend for a coffee or a beer. There are no real hobbies in there. And so I'll say you need some fun, you need some passion, some fun, some activities, something that gets your heart racing, something that lights the fire in your belly. And they'll say, but what? I don't know what I'm into. And that's the time where we need to try them. So many new activities or activities will let you sign up for a free taster session, whether it's an exercise class or an activity. Come along and meet us, come along and try it for free often. So I would say, go for it. Get some new things in your life. Find out what you like, whether it's art, music, craft, acting, performing, fitness, travel, food, cookery, whatever it is. Try it. Just give it a go and find something that really excites you. And don't worry if you make mistakes. Even if you sign up for activities and you think, oh, this was a huge mistake, I hate this. It's not a mistake because you learn from it. So going back full circle to welcome mistakes in your life, because you can learn from them. You can learn you ask yourself, why did I make that mistake? Whether it's presenting or at work or in front of a customer, bidding, trying for a contract, doing a spreadsheet, whatever you do, setting up a business. Okay, maybe that business didn't work. Maybe it was the wrong business and you're destined to be doing something else. Maybe that wasn't the right job for you, but you'd be brilliant in something similar for a different sort of company. They're not mistakes. You've just got to correct it. And I've forgotten that phrase, when your ship is sinking, bail quickly. Don't hang on to a sinking ship. So if you're unhappy in your job, or you're unhappy in a relationship, or just unhappy in something in your life, don't hang on to it and hope it will get better. What's wrong with it in particular? Why was it a mistake in your eyes? Ask yourself the question, why? Why isn't this working? Why did I make that mistake? Why is it a mistake? What is it? Get to the root cause of what did you do wrong, if that's the word. And I don't mean those words in a judgmental way with lots of weight behind them. It's just a way of analysing them, break it down. You know, in some of it, you will have done something right. Actually, that makes me realise some clients who I'm working with, and they're going through a divorce. Maybe they've been married for 15, 16 years or 20 years or something, and then one of the partnership have decided they want out for whatever reason, and the other is left devastated. My marriage is over. My marriage is a failure. My marriage is broken. All of those words that we use. And I know when I went through a divorce, my first marriage ended in divorce. And I remember my brother, actually, a great sense of humour, saying, "Oh, you're a statistic now, I think at that time it was 1 in 3 marriages. I don't know what the latest statistic is. You've joined the ranks of the stats. You're a 1 in 3 now with your failed marriage." And I said to him, you know, it wasn't a failed marriage. It was a happy marriage. Until it went wrong. You know, so you might be married 15, 16 years and then one of you decide you want to come out of it. But for those first 15, 14 years, it was a successful marriage, a happy marriage. It doesn't mean because it doesn't work out towards the end that the whole thing was a mistake. It's not. You might have 2, 3 beautiful children as a result. You may have been best friends for 15, 16 years and before with the courtship and have some great times, some great memories. That person was very special and important and large in your life for a long time. Now the marriage might be ending, but don't write the whole time off. It's the same in your job. You know, you might be really happy in your job for a few years. You had a great boss, great team, really good banter, great colleagues. You loved the responsibility you had. You loved the role. Then it all changed for one reason or another. Perhaps the company sold out to another company and it all changed, as these things do sometimes, or the boss changes or your role changes or something, and then you hate it. But that doesn't sort of diss the whole time there. You loved it for a while. It was key for you. It was important for you. It taught you a lot. It gave you a lot. It was rewarding and a happy time. So it's always a shame if we sort of write the whole thing off. The whole marriage or the whole job or the whole experience off, because that's not the reality. It can be a very successful, happy marriage for a long, long time. And then for whatever reason, it might come to an end and we can move on eventually after we've healed and have another happy life, you know, in whatever way we choose thereafter. It's a shame to write everything off in one go. So with your mistakes, and I mean that in a positive way, not a negative connotation, welcome the mistakes because they are great opportunities to learn. If you keep a really good growth mindset in life generally, what can I learn from this? What's this teaching me? What have I found out about myself? And what and why did this happen? So let's say you feel that you've done, for example, you've done a big presentation in front of an audience. You're a little bit nervous. You did the presentation and you come off stage or whatever it is. You sit back down and you start beating yourself up. It was a disaster. I didn't answer that question. He asked me that really tricky question and I messed up. I didn't know the answer. Oh, the whole thing was a disaster. No, the whole thing is not a disaster. Get some context. Put it into perspective. You couldn't answer one of the questions at the end. You did a 30-minute presentation and one question at the end you weren't sure on. That does not make the whole thing a disaster. So get context, get perspective on everything, and then see what bit went wrong. Okay, it was that question. Was your planning adequate? Could you have done a little bit more planning? Could you have sat with your line manager or a colleague and run the presentation past them? Would they have come up with that question? Could they have run it past you and you researched it? Did you handle the answer correctly? Insofar as, did you confidently admit you didn't know the answer and that you would go off and find out? Have you since found out the answer to that question? Have you since reported it to the questionnaire? What can you take from it? How can you turn this round into a great learning? What do you learn from this experience? Okay, A, the whole presentation wasn't a disaster. You didn't know the answer to one question. B, you learn from this that in future you'll do a dummy run in front of someone, get them to ask every possible question you can. Ask yourself every possible question from all sorts of different angles so that you know any possible question that might come up and you're prepared. If one still comes up that you don't know the answer to, that's fine. It's all right not to know the answers to everything. We are only human after all. Cut ourselves some slack, but just confidently tell them, I'm really sorry. That's a very interesting question and one I've never ever considered. Thank you very much for bringing that to my attention. I'm going to go straight off and research that. And if you could just jot your email address down, I will definitely give you the answer in the next couple of hours. Thank you very much for that question. Any more questions? You've confidently answered, even though you didn't know that specific answer. Just keep confident and learn from it. And if you haven't done that, you're learning from it now. So welcome mistakes or failings or whatever you want to call them, or just call them learnings or opportunities. Approach life with a completely open mind, a full growth mindset. What can I learn from this and how can I grow from this? How can I improve? How can I move forward? And have a go. Don't be a quitter. Have a go. And if it's not right, have another go in a different way. Repeat. Slightly tweaked, slightly improved. Learn from each opportunity. Dissect it a little bit. What went wrong? Where could you improve it? What can you learn from it? What can you take from it? If we just make mistakes and beat ourselves up and become an enemy and a critic in our heads and give ourselves a hard time, A, that's painful. B, it's a total waste of time and energy in our heads. It's achieving nothing. All it's achieving actually is to knock your confidence and drag you down and hold you back. It's going to hold you back in your safety zone. It's going to prevent you from trying in the future. It's going to knock your confidence. It's going to have a little bit of self-loathing if you want to really push it, or dislike, or it's doing nothing for you. Or if it is doing something, it's all negative stuff. It's not helping you whatsoever. So don't just beat yourself up that you've made a mistake, full stop. Because that's a mistake. That's where you're going wrong. Turn it round. What can I learn? What's the learning in all of this? What can I take from this? Because it's a gift. In the same way that feedback is a gift. Equally, welcome feedback. Ask someone for feedback. If there was somebody in the audience who you respect, and will be fair and honest, ask them for some feedback. If it's a boss or a partner or a loved one, whatever the activity is or the experience is, your best friend, ask them for feedback. Give me some feedback. I want to grow from this. In that party that we were in the other day, I don't think I behaved very well. I lost my temper or I embarrassed myself, or whatever it is. Can you give me some feedback? What do you think went wrong? How could I have handled that differently, or how could I have behaved differently, for example? So, I mean, the thing is, we're human and we've all made mistakes in our lives, or each and every one of us. But if we learn from that, it wasn't a mistake. If we just beat ourselves up or hold ourselves back as a result, that's a mistake. So I say, if you want to read around this subject, then it is a good read. Black Box Thinking is a good book. There's also the book about growth mindset. There's a lot of books about growth mindset, but there was one, I think, called Growth Mindset in particular. That was the sort of leading book in the field at the time. It kind of launched it. And of course, there will be loads and loads of talks, especially about growth mindset. I know for a fact on YouTube and TED Talks, etc. There's loads of it around in the world of sport as well. Very much the case that people in sport need a growth mindset. They keep needing to tweak their technique and their style to get better and better and better, and to keep their competition guessing and take them by surprise. So, And actually, in one of those sports podcasts, one of them said that it's exactly when you get to the top of your game in sport. It's exactly when you've got that gold medal, or you've, won the world championships or whatever. That's exactly the time when you need to throw out all of your technique and change it, whether it's team rugby or whatever. That when you've won the championship or the World Cup or whatever it is, that's when you need to change everything you're doing, to take your competition by surprise, to turn it all upside down. It is not to stay complacent and assume that because you've won once, using that style or that approach, that you can continue to rely on it, because others will get the same style, they'll adapt their technique, learn from you, mimic you, etc. So we've constantly, even the top athletes are constantly on their toes, constantly tweaking their style and their technique. So we need to do that in life, whether it's at work, whether it's socially, whether it's as a parent. As a parent, that's key as well. We will make mistakes as parents. We will make hundreds of mistakes as parents. And our children will make mistakes. If we encourage them to have a growth mindset, learn from their mistakes. It's okay to make a mistake. Say they failed their test or their exam or whatever. What can they learn from that? What was their revision technique? How many hours did they put in? Was it enough? Do they feel in hindsight they could have done a little bit more? Do they feel perhaps a different revision technique or essay writing technique, or so on and so on? What can they learn from it instead of just feel a failure and feel that they've messed their grades up? They haven't. What can they take from it? What can they improve upon? As a parent, what can we learn? Sometimes, the children go to bed and we beat ourselves up. I've been a rubbish mum today. I've been shocking. I've taken my eye off the ball. I've not given them any attention, or I've been grumpy and snappy, or unfair, or too strict, or whatever it is. We are human. We will make mistakes. But if we're able to, in the evening, sit down and think, I've been really, really uninvolved, or harsh, or unfair, or just not very kind, and I didn't listen when they wanted to chat, I was rushed and busy, or I didn't have the time, whatever it is, we can put that right the next day. As long as we know that we've done that and accept it and acknowledge it to ourselves openly, we can tomorrow sit down, have breakfast with them, or give them some time, or whatever it is that we feel that we've messed up today, we can put right tomorrow. If we're not aware of it, or we don't ask for feedback from people in our whatever scenario, or we don't break it down ourselves and learn from it, we're just going to repeat the same mistakes, and that is not learning. That's not growth either, or development. So be open to it, have an open mind, welcome opportunities, make mistakes and bring them on and learn from them, and keep growing. Don't let fear of failure hold you back, because that is certain failure. Go forward, believe in yourselves, have a go, and drop me an email. As always, I love to hear your successes and your shared experiences, so please drop me an email, dawn@milestone-coaching.co.uk, and tell me how it's going. Tell me what you had to go at, or what mistake you made and what you've learnt from it. I'd love to hear from you. I truly would love to hear from you. If you ever feel that just one session or a couple of coaching sessions with me could help you specifically on something specific, tailored to you in a one-to-one, then also drop me an email or contact me, phone me. All the contact information is on my website, www.milestone-coaching.co.uk. You can drop me a line through that, or get the telephone numbers. Don't think for a second that you're not in Hampshire in the UK, so that excludes you. You can be anywhere in the world. There's FaceTime, there's telephone, all sorts of different means of us, messenger, and all those sorts of ways of speaking. Skype, for example. So you can be anywhere in the world and have one-to-one coaching with me. It could be just a one-off session. You're totally in the driving seat. I don't commit to anybody to a certain amount of sessions. You can have one session, work through something, and get what you need, and that could be that, or a few, if you feel a few would help. So just give me a call or drop me a line, and we can tailor it for you, if that would be helpful. If not, thank you again for listening. It's been great having you along with me on this. Apologies if there's been noise in the background. I am sat in the car watching my son play field hockey, and it's freezing out there, so I thought I would sit and watch him and work at the same time. I'm now going to go out and do some cheering. So thank you. Have a great week, and make some mistakes. Bring it on.